Hey everybody, Doug here from 2 Plus Tough. I am just hanging out, about to do a little bit of hobby, and I thought, hey, you know what? Why not check to see how everyone is doing? So, give me a second. I'm just making sure my stream is working, and if you can see and hear me okay, go ahead and let me know in the comments down below. And it's been a busy week, even though it's only Tuesday. Good golly. So I'm just moving some stuff out of the way here as I pull up my comments so I can see the feed as I paint over here to the side. If you don't know, typically what I like to do is have my my phone actually on me over here to the side or in the painting area so I can actually see what y'all are saying when you're saying it, and it's not there we go. You can see Kenzie's in the chat. Woo. Okay, so what we will do then is we'll turn on this blinding light and we'll go over here. Alrighty, so let me see what you can see. Basically, I am nearing the end, the epic finish of my Necromunda terrain, and so that's what we're looking at right now. Got a little pillow for behind my back. It's been helping my posture quite a bit. So, basically, this is all the metal bits. So we're just going to add some rust and then a little bit of dry brushing. Honestly, the pipes and that kind of stuff, it's not really the appeal to me. And these things, although I had them painted with different colors a bit ago, I just I didn't like the way they were turning out. And honestly, I kind of hate these as models. They fall over way too easily. Like the legs they stand on aren't long enough, so they're frankly kind of annoying to use. So we're just gonna speed through these. So if you watch this video at like triple speed, you're gonna see some ping pong action as all the terrain goes to the side, and then all the side and the side and the side. So anyway, let me go ahead and get my paints together. What do we need? We need fur brown. We need, where's my rust? There's my rust. And we'll go back over stuff at the end. A little bit of typhus corrosion here. And let me go ahead. Sorry, wrong pipe. Let me go ahead and open the chat up. What is everybody working on as we get started here? So, for me, it's been it's been a pretty darn busy week. Actually, I made a video for my patrons, but I got this in the mail today. This is the Infinity Army Pack, so I can play Infinity, this small point game. And part of that was, quite frankly, this terrain has been so soul crushing. There we go. That I'm gonna play any game that I can possibly use the terrain for. That's just kind of where I'm at emotionally. Let's see, we got Michael Hammond. I'm at work. Wish I was hanging out with you guys. Watch hobby later. Okay, well, that's awesome, man. Go kill it at work. Earn that coin. Get that stuff done. I did know that Michael has an event going down here in Bellingham, Washington here pretty soon. And I hope to be a part of that. Should be able to make it. I'm keeping my word that 2020, I don't know if I told this on the channel, but I definitely told it amongst friends. I wanted 2020 to be a big year for me when it came to gaming more. Just, yeah, I don't know. I feel like I don't want to talk. There's just this point where it gets annoying where I feel like I'm talking about the game more than I'm actually playing it, if that makes sense. Kenzie's working on a Chaos Space Marine, a word bearer. Sweet. I dig it. Word bearers are pretty awesome. It was a tough choice. So I have a few Chaos Space Marines just to play a few games with local buddy Ben. And it was a tough one to pick between Alpha Legion and word bearers. And ultimately what it came down to was I like the narrative aspect of like just being able to do crazy plot reason stuff and make anything happen. So I was like, I can fit any mold if I'm the Alpha Legion, you know? Let's see, I have Infinity Starter Box from 4 years ago in college. Built, not painted. Seems interesting, terrain heavy. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I'm not I'm not necessarily interested in it for right now, but I will tell you I'm very interested in it come Adepticon. They are basically, so they're, when they launch their new edition, which is going to be announced it's been announced, but I guess previewed heavily at Adepticon is kind of the idea. Basically what they're doing is they're going to make two different styles of game. They're going to have one that is very crunchy like it is now, and one that is much more, I don't want to say newbie friendly, because, you know, they made it very clear that like anyone of any power level can, or any game level can enjoy it. So I don't want to like sound all gatekeepery, but I more meant like, you know, it's an easier onboarding as well as a simplified game. So if you need a quick game, that kind of thing, I think it's kind of their answer to Kill Team being able to be played roughly in about 40 minutes, whereas Infinity sometimes can take just as long as a full honking game of AOS. So let's see, going to school, but at home I'm still working on my Aventis Deepkin. Speaking of which, I find the fact the Lumineth Realm Lords are what the Aventis Deepkin were supposed to be very fascinating. Yes, and I plan on touching that fact quite a bit as I look at that book. They haven't sent it to me yet or anything like that, so I have no idea. And you know, a few people have sent me the article that went out about the Lumineth Bros, and the thing is, I actually don't really care for reading those articles because I've noticed it a lot, particularly with I don't know why this is, but some of the Corn books where I'll read their blurb on the community page, and then I don't know if it's like, I feel like the battle tome goes in different directions. Certainly that happened with Tzeentch the first time Tzeentch came out, of like, you know, the community page presented it one way, and then the actual articles that I was reading was like, oh, much more focused on like subterfuge and cults and that kind of stuff. And I liked it more in the battle tome than I did. So anyway, point being, for the same reason that I don't watch movie trailers, like, no, I want the book in hand. I want all the info all at once, so I can just glut on information. I'm curious as to what nickname Vince from Warhammer Weekly is gonna give these guys. It's, you know, that's what I wait with bated breath every time a new battle tome comes out. It's like, all right, Vince, what are we calling him, bro? Loomies, Luminaires, like the candle from Beauty and the Beast. Let's see. Jack, hey. Jack, are you still working right now? They cut me out early to go run some errands for the office. They're like, oh, just tack on your time card. And I was like, yes, please. Yeah, let's see. You got a narrative campaign coming up. Got to get my warband painted. Oh, sweet. That's awesome. Yeah, we're still technically doing Warcry stuff at my kind of local store over in Monroe. I'm the biggest hindrance to that, if I'm being honest with you, because it's just been crazy at work. Things are settling down now. I think I mentioned it before that like half of our staff is of Chinese descent, and so the Chinese New Year, a lot of them took off for it, and so it just kind of made it a kind of crazy work environment. But we're all back. Things are mellowing out a little bit. Everyone was super grateful that you work at a place that's flexible enough to do that, which we are, so we should. I think GW nailed it themselves with pointy elves. Oh, for their nickname? Yeah. It's too, I don't know. It's because that to me is not a fun nickname, right? It's just I'm not going to share what I was going to say, but it's just too descriptive. It's too on the nose. It's got to be something a little more fun. But let's see. We'll focus on the top portion this time. Zotes was awesome too. Yeah, seeing the Zotes. I mean, I have heard of them, but I didn't. I mean, I had a vague understanding of what they were like, but that's mainly just from some random 40K podcast talking about probably things that'll never happen, which, joke's on them now, but I will say, I do like, there seems to be a trend in these big miniature game companies. When I say big, I just mean, the main forerunners in the industry, so Games Workshop, Privateer Press, Corvus Belli, Mantic, those kinds of things that produce a lot of models, whether you like them or not. But there seems to be a good trend in the industry towards you have a main game and or games, right, plural, but on the side you make these little side games and it gives you a way of releasing just a model here and a model there. And I really like that. I like that trend. I don't know why we're doing it for forever. Because for example, like Blackstone Fortress is a great way for them to be like, oh, you guys want Zotes? Sure, here's a random thing, and they could just throw them a sculpt, and people who are like diehard fans, even if they don't play Blackstone Fortress, are gonna buy it. And they did the same thing with Necromunda, with the squats, right? Everybody lost their collective minds when that happened. Yeah, I mean, stuff like that. I like those things, because then you look at games from other companies like I forgot what Privateer Press is calling theirs. Riot Quest, that's what it is. That's their game that they release, kind of like just random 1 or 2 models for here and there. And then Infinity now has Aristea, that kind of stuff. I think it's cool. I don't know how the industry got locked into this idea that every release has to be a massive big splash, but I'm glad we're kind of breaking away from that. And it provides them a chance to design some other games and get into some other cool territory. Last thing you want is for your game designers to get bored and boxed in. Let's see. Light daddies. No, I'm not gonna. Depends on how real we want to get on this podcast, but on this show. But I just don't like calling things daddies. I just don't like it. Never have. I'm sure there's some deep laden father issues that is associated with that. As the lore content winds down, I've still got all this creative energy left in me. As the lore contest. Sorry, I meant lore content. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, man. I got a full docket of videos to do. Yeah, go ahead and write it all. So if you don't know, that super very subtle plug that Kenzie just did, we have a lore contest going, and it ends at the end of the month, so you have just a couple days left. There's a video on the channel. Just type in lore contest. It'll pop up for you. I'm not going to paint that. Man, same. Kids are gonna have to call you Pops. I like that one. But I like Pops. I actually like Papa. That's actually my favorite. I mean, my father wasn't around growing up, so I didn't call anyone by any paternal name, but my wife calls her father Papa, and I think it's adorable. See. Chris says, what are your thoughts on the Wrath of Everchosen book reveals today? So I've been at work most of the day, so I didn't have a ton of time to look for it. But looking over the table of contents they kind of revealed to us, I get the sense that it's very much like a Psychic Awakening-esque thing. And if you are not someone who's been keeping up with that, basically, it's a campaign book that tells it... well, this is the Psychic Awakening stuff, but it's a campaign book that tells a self-contained story as part of a greater setting-wide shift, right? So like if I say Age of Sigmar just got more deadly, that's describing a setting-wide shift, but that statement is composed of a million little things going awry, right? And so this is the middle. This is one of the things going awry. So anyway, the way that Psycho-Awakening does it is they basically, here's a story involving X number of factions. It's been as low as 2. It's been as high as 4, I think. And for that, you just get a whole heckin' ton of rules to be able to mimic what you're reading about. But as in addition to that, just kind of supplement your games. It's really especially useful for armies. Like you can tell, one of the ones they focused heavily on that I am very happy about is Maggotkin. So in the book, there are a whole bunch of sub-factions for Maggotkin. So just like Storm Hosts exist for Stormcast, I can be like, I'm a Maggotkin of blank, where previously the only sub-faction was Tomerkin's Horde from Forge World. Which I will say is the saddest panda in all of Forge World. Is, I don't know if I'll say, no, it's not the saddest panda. The saddest panda is Chaos Dwarfs. They've gotten even less love, I'll give you that. But Tomerkin's Horde, in terms of the Nurgle support, is it's not great. And so yeah, I'm honestly, so to my recollection, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, because it's honestly been so long since I read it, but to my memory, the last thing that really happened in Shyish regarding their direct gate to the all points, right, or where all this is going down, the 8 points, the Stormcast Anvils of Helden Hammer were going to meet up and team up with some undead forces, and they were together going to fight back chaos and reclaim the gate. However, the undead guys didn't show up, and so the Anvils of Helden Hammer got slaughtered to a dude. And that's pretty much all the blurb that we got from it. So that's the last I distinctly remember hearing about. There might be more that I didn't catch. Like I said, I never claim to be I don't retain all this information, I just present it passionately. And so I might have missed something, but that's my understanding. And the reason that's important is because that means, in my mind, Nagash wanted the Stormcast out of the way, right? Bleed the Anvils of Helden Hammer, because he knew that he has a card in his deck that he's going to spring, which would be, of course, now we know, the Ossiarch Bone Reapers. And so now he's got that, and it looks like Dreadnought sits in the capital of the Bone Reapers. Yeah, so being okay with letting the Stormcast die, making the agreement, and then knowing fully well that later on he has an army that's going to march. So I didn't make the connection with that name, but it fits with what I was trying to get at, which is he let the Stormcast bleed themselves out because he knew the Bone Reapers were coming and that they were going to storm the all points, because who needs Sigmar kind of thing. So thank you for that. Like I said, I don't remember all this stuff. What else? So yeah, I think it'll just, and honestly, that's what I want. Like, obviously I haven't seen the book yet. They haven't sent anything to me. But what I'd love is, like, give me information about these locations that are super important, right? Very, very lore defining, but you can do so in a way that's part of a bigger story. Like, it doesn't have to be like all right, everybody, this is the Shyish book, right? No, don't do that, but do something cool where it's like, you can tell me a little bit about Ossia, which is where the Bone Reapers are from, as they leave there to go to, the Archaeon's front door. I was like, tell me that kind of stuff. And so that's kind of what I'm excited for, is just the whole learn more about the settings. Honestly, to be perfectly honest, I was a little bit disappointed when the Warcry core book came out, because for all the other core books on Games Workshop games, and this includes Shadespire, which is probably the least lore depth, or a game that involves the least amount of depth to their lore. Like, they describe the environment and the factions, and I just feel like they didn't do a great job of explaining what life in the 8 points and the Bloodwind Spoil is like. And so I'm hoping that this book does that. It fills that need, because I would love to do more videos about Warcry lore, but the factions weren't really, I don't know, dove into in an extreme way. We saw how certain tribes of them lived with the anthology, which we need to do for the 2+ tomes book club thing. Yeah, I don't know. Very, very strange. So I'm hoping this kind of makes up for it, to be honest with you. Kind of fills in some of those gaps. Kenzie, it does fill a few things out, but the thing is that, like, when you say the Iron Golems, right? The Iron Golems don't necessarily have, like, the faction that we read about in the anthology book is not necessarily representative of all Iron Golems everywhere, you know. And so, like, it's just one warband that broke off from that tribe to go somewhere else. And so, I don't know, I want to learn more about the parent, right? The capital I, capital G Iron Golems. What are they like? How come they send people to just go, like, willy-nilly into the worst parts of the universe? Seems like poor upper management. Which, honestly, I think is pretty much the problem that all Age of Sigmar armies suffer from, is poor upper management. I think Tony Robbins can really sweep in to the Mortal Realms and pretty much just take on the Chaos Gods themselves. Tony Robbins, motivational speaker, teaches about leadership, in case that went over your head. Sorry. Let's see, Doug, Underworlds just went live on Steam today. Plan on getting / streaming it. You know, I did not know that until right before I hopped on. I saw that Jack had actually asked about it in the chat, and then Mark told me it was on. So I might, actually. I do like the game. I didn't have the easiest time finding people to play with locally. So that might address it. Maybe that would rekindle some love. Certainly, if nothing else, when that Maggotkin faction drops, I'll be on that like a fly on turd, man. Just because I want the models, and I'd love to see how it's animated. That's the biggest thing to me. Like, I'm not good at Total War, like the actual game Total War. But the reason I do pick it up every once in a while, just to horse around, is because seeing these models with how, like, people envision them moving. Movement is a very important thing, and I don't mean like gameplay wise. I just mean like seeing something in motion. And so, for example, if you haven't ever seen how the Doom Wheel, like the Skaven thing, moves in Total War, look at the model and then pull up a YouTube video that involves it and just watch it, because it'll blow your mind. You'll be like instantly like, I want to play Skaven now because it's so freaking cool. So I would love more opportunities, like hopefully what they're presenting here with Underworlds, to see models in motion and given life and that kind of stuff. We need more Age of Sigmar video games. Totally agree. I feel like we're past the point of having a reasonable, buffer of time between Old World and actually using the intellectual property that is AOS. But I'm not even sure what kind of game I want, to be perfectly honest with you. Like, I think a lot of things could work. Honestly, even about now, I'd settle for like SimCity, but with Free Guild or Cities of Sigmar. That'd be amazing. where you're just like, why am I building a town? Like, yeah, rad. Construct additional azurite pylons. Age of Sigmar dating sim. I love it. I think that would go to some weird places. I think the DLCs would be questionable at best, but you know what? I'm going to say it. I'm going to go for it. Total War made me buy a Seraphon army. Oh, dude. They got you good. Chris says, Vampire Coast really makes me want GW to make that an AOS army. Yeah, I haven't actually played as them, but I have played against them. And by against them, I mean they came in and just stuffed me into a locker because I was not prepared emotionally or gameplay-wise. But yeah, pretty cool stuff. CD Projekt Red makes a massive AOS RPG where you travel the realms. That'd be cool. Oh, and I think the next thing that we're waiting for, I think, is the Necromunda game, based on the same guys who made the Mordheim one, which I am so excited for that. Because I played an inordinate amount of that Mordheim game. For someone who doesn't play video games a lot, like I do, that's awesome, serious screen time. All right, coming along nicely. Hey Hugh, do you think with the Necromunda set you could build a Carriage and Overlord Skyport? That's my mission. Skyport. Yes, you would want to be selective about the parts that you use, but a lot of the stuff is like this, where there's no clear 40K identifiers. And so, you know, I'm not going to tell you that you'll use every single bit. Of course not, because a lot of it's that high Gothic, that kind of stuff. But if you were to do stuff like this and add Carriage and Overlord, like banners, or go get some bits from dwarf stuff, I think you really could, because... Let's see. Give me just a second. That's an awesome question, Sam. A lot of the set comes with stuff like this, which are these little pylons you can build on. Now, this thing is part of the piping system. It's not actually, like, it doesn't come there. You have to glue it on. So just don't, and you'll have a bunch of these things that are just perfectly blank. And so you get a whole bunch of them. You can stack them up. There's stairs that are pretty nondescript. There's nothing particularly grimdark about them. So... I think you can. I don't see why not. They even got these cool like elevator things with chains, but you don't actually see any motors or anything like that. So it's, you know. Let me put this stuff away before I lose and or break it. Yeah, okay. So yeah, I think it's totally possible. Now, I don't recall off the top of my head how high the ships stand, like on their stand. So like you would have to have the terrain to kind of meet it. That's one I'm a little unclear of. But I mean, for as far as like just making something that looks cool to ship next to it without, you know, distracting, I think absolutely. Anyway, a good way to scrape sticky tack off miniatures. Sticky tack specifically. Hobby knife. Pretty much. That's why I don't use it. Just throwing a little bit of random patches of a wash from Secret Weapon Miniature called Sewer Water, which I thought was a pretty apt name. Use another piece of sticky tack. I can't tell if that's trolling or not, because it might actually work. But if it is trolling, I'm just the person that's dumb enough to try it. That's a great wash name. Yeah. So I'm not doing the whole model, just some key points where there are like seams and stuff, or some nasty stuff might pour out and leak. And we're just going to do it on the pipe parts. This one I'll go a little nuts on because it's a broken pipe, just a straight up broken pipe. Doom and Darkness, hello, hello. The man, the myth, the legend walks in. Winner of 2020 CanCon, I assume. I haven't actually looked at the results, but that's just what I assume when someone of such internet clout meanders into my chat, is that he is a winner. He came back with his shield, not on it. Sam, so it will be for an army on parade. I've got the fans to spin with a battery. Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, like I said, the only thing that I'm not sure of is the height, because the terrain that they give you in Dark Uprising, it's all very specific heights because it's all supposed to be modular. So again, I would maybe go to your GW store if they have a set, just to play around with the height of a ship to make sure, because you don't want it to be like way too low and then like way too high, and I have no idea. So Doom came back on his shield. That's okay. That's okay. We'll let you in anyway. For all the rest of this stuff, I'm just gonna dry brush it silver. Later I'll go back and I'll actually paint these, but Buddy Ben, who built it, he actually magnetized these things. They're kind of like fusion cores that snap into this. Isn't that cool? I like that. So if there's an objective where you have to go get the fusion thing, just pop it out. I thought that was, in a word, nifty. So let's just get our silver and we'll start dry brushing. Think an ogre would come back on his Iron Fist covered barbecue sauce. That's okay. Let me ask you this, Doom. Did you have a fun time? That's the most important thing. I see a lot of people talking about CanCon and LVO results, and not enough people talking about just having a good time. I know that AOS Coach shared a plenty of pictures, I think, of him just hanging out with people and said that he was kind of just offline for a few days, and I think that's awesome. Seems like he had an absolute blast. That's what I want to hear more about. Part of my way I process things is I'll make memes. I was making little inside jokes for myself. And so today I was making salty memes about people who just focus on competitive stuff. I had a great time, and more importantly, I scored a secondhand copy of Hero Quest. I saw that on your, I think it was on Twitter. Yeah, dude, that's awesome. I never actually did play Hero Quest, but I hear all the best things. Is it so is it kind of like, how do I word this? It's like a dungeon crawler type thing? That I don't really have a solid understanding of what the gameplay is like, but that kind of seems what I would think. But that's awesome, man. Walking away with something you value is just the based. He's the based. At this point, I'm so emotionally done with this terrain that some of the buttons and stuff I'm going to pass over for the future. And I'm okay with that. At this point, I just want to start playing on this thing, on this terrain, so I can start having fun and actually enjoying it. It's like Dungeons & Dragons with minis. Super fun board game. Okay, cool. I dig it. There was a guy here locally selling a copy. I don't know how much he was selling it for, but nobody picked it up, so I'm assuming something outrageous. And it seemed interesting. I feel like my painting gets sloppier the longer I spend on a model. That's like a real thing, actually. I was listening to Trapped Under Plastic. It's a podcast / YouTube show by a few very, very talented painters. I can't think of their channels off the top of my head, but they come together for the show called Trapped Under Plastic. And they were kind of saying that, like, there's this diminishing returns that happens when you reach that point of a model where all you focus on is the details, where you might actually learn and get more out of stuff if you were just to skip that part. So it's like, you paint most of the model and you go to the little tiny minuscule, like I was just saying with the buttons and that kind of stuff that doesn't matter for the gameplay or stuff like that. But if you focus on them too much, you have diminishing returns on how much you're actually learning, which would affect obviously how things look. So yeah. I gotta tell y'all, one of my new favorite paints is Grey Knight Silver. Because when it comes to highlighting metals, it just looks so dang good. And then after these parts, meaning the things that I'm dry brushing right now, like little barricades and the pipes, really all I have left is a couple of those like gantryway pieces that I showed earlier. So we're getting there. My goodness. Taken forever. I don't understand those people who had this whole like set cranked out like the weekend the game came out. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? But yeah, people did it. It's crazy. So is Necromunda just 40k Warcry? It's a bit more complicated than that. Warcry is a very simplified game, whereas Necromunda, it's a very it can be complex. It can be. It can also be very simple, but it is similar in the sense that you use very few models. You build a warband and that kind of stuff. So in that way, yes, if that's what you're looking at. If you're talking about size of game wise, yes. In terms of like gameplay, they're pretty different. Warcry is based on action economy, meaning how many dudes can you get and you can do stuff. Whereas Necromunda, you have to build every dude from the ground up with everything they're equipped with, and there's a lot more. There's darn near infinitely more rules in Necromunda than there is in Warcry, which is why I don't play it a ton. But every time I do play Necromunda, I have an absolute blast. It really is, because it's one of those things like rules. they can make the game seem scary for new folks because there's just a lot to learn. The other side of that coin, though, is that rules allow you to express what you want to do. They're like a language. So by that I mean, in Warcry, let me give an example. In Warcry, you can't set people on fire, even though people have fire attacks, right? Whereas in Necromunda, you set someone on fire, and if the fire doesn't go out, you put like a template over them to decide which direction they run like a madman or madwoman, and then they can like opt to stop, drop, and roll, but you don't have to because they could just be dumb. That kind of stuff where it's like, you know, there's a lot of rules involved in describing that interaction, which is super annoying and a detriment when it comes to getting new people involved. But the counterpoint is that like only one of those two games allows you to represent that. And that's kind of the trade-off. So, roll for emotional damage. My goodness. I actually have a lore video for Necromunda going up. When is that going up? I think Monday. I haven't recorded it yet, but it's on my schedule. And yeah, it is a bleak existence. Everybody is perpetually rolling for emotional damage. to put it as lightly as possible. So you can understand that's the trade-off I'm saying, though, where like, you know, if you want to represent more things, it requires more work. And so some people are cool with that trade-off, some folks not so much. And there's no wrong answer. And I think at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. There is simply no wrong answer. I like Necromunda because sometimes I like telling those very in-depth stories like I just expressed with the girl being on fire. That's actually one of my favorite memories. So is shooting off a Gene Stealer cult guy off a huge ledge. I don't even know why this guy had him so close to an edge or something. Shot him off, and when you did the math on how like the distance he fell and took the hit, it is the equivalent of a tank in 40k shooting him in the face. And he managed to survive and limped away and was annoying the entire rest of the game. Because I just couldn't kill the dude. Like that kind of stuff. I'm like, yeah, this is why I play Necromunda. Conversely, with Warcry, I play it because I can go to game night and I can crank out 3 to 4 games if I want to. And that is a value proposition all its own that so many games cannot offer. Doug, you still need to finish the warp video to fill out your 40k intro. You know, here's the thing. That sounds like work. No, that's not the thing. The thing is, I will do that. At some point, I am going to go talk about 40k proper a bit more. But honestly, like, there's just so little Necromunda lore. I'm like, I don't know. They don't really use the warp in there, so it's like, do I really need to discuss that before I can even talk about like Necromunda? Nah. Yeah. Let's just start chatting about the bleak, depressing existence of billions of people. But yes, I do need to do that before I go any further in the actual 40k, like the grand, you know, capital 4, capital K, of course, as I'm going to call that. I am going to talk about the warp because that's kind of what I consider to be like a foundational thing. There's just, you know, there's a few of those things in some of these fantasy settings where it's like, if you understand these like 3 to 4 things, everything else you can kind of piece together, or you know, you can kind of like work around and kind of just grow regularly. But the way that chaos works in 40k is so unique and highly important to almost all aspects of the setting, because it's, you know, how they travel, it's what they fight, it's literally the big bad guy for the Imperium. Like, it's, you know, it's all these things that you can't, I don't know, you can only go so far without really taking some time to be like, and now we're going to talk about evil. Let's see. Blitzkrieg. Necromunda is like life on your average Imperial planet, right? Or is it more complex than that? It is a bit more complex. There are different kinds of planets within the Imperium, and it is specifically called a hive world, which is its own subgenre of horrific existence, and we will explore that on Monday. Question: what will we read after Warcry anthology for 2+ tomes? I don't know, and I'm not going to make a commitment quite yet because so we're going to do the Warcry anthology thing, and then down the pipeline we have Wrath of the Everchosen, Lumineth, Realm Lords, and then there are just other things I want to chat about. Like I do want to talk about Infinity lore and that kind of stuff. So I'm not sure. I don't have what you might traditionally call a plan. That's kind of where I'm at right now. And by traditionally, I mean any semblance of. That's what I mean by that, of course. Let's see. Then there is the Corpse Grinders and the Dark Uprising campaign, which is a whole level of depressing. Exactly, yes. It's a very dark scene. Question: what faction would you want to get a named character? What would they be? Ooh. A faction would get a named character. Maybe Ma tribes? The cities of Sigmar have a named character? I don't know. Look, I know they can take Aventis Firestrike, but I don't know if he's like baked into their battle tome. Just thinking of ones that don't need. Honestly, I don't really like named characters. I like creating my own heroes, so I don't know. Doom and Darkness. I heard Ma tribes. Yeah, Doom. What named hero? It could be from the new setting, like make your own. What would you think would be cool? Or you can pick a hero from the old world. What kind of hero would you want? Yeah, I want a new character. Yeah. That's the thing where it's like when we look at the War Clans book, right? Bone Splitters have no named characters. Ironjaws have the one. They have Gordrak. But his like magnetic personality and the way they built him up is so cool that he just is intrinsically interesting, right? You kind of want to just field him just because he's Gordrak. He's awesome. And I feel like every army should have at least the option of that, right? Like to me, Gordrak is even best in like super big games where he's representing like the Uberwa, if you will. But I don't know. I feel like every army should have that one guy that when they show up, the enemy's like, oh crap, they mean business. So that's kind of my thought. Actually, tell you what, let's take these little computer banks, and what else do we need? Really quickly, I am going to just super fast hammer through. I'm just going to grab like 3 or 4 colors and throw some stuff on the control panels here just to break it up. Because now that I see it all together, it kind of looks meh. Okay, so we need that. There we go. Just grab a couple random colors and we're going to make this quick and dirty. Named Arch Revenant. That'd be fine. Yeah. City should have a priest called Doug, and his prayer should add 2+ to his toughness. Cities of Sigmar can't handle me. Boom. Alright. So yeah, right now I'm just randomly painting a few things here. Got it, Doug. Doug is how I'll paint my Excelsior War Priest. Got to get some green stuff skills. Get him a gut. If you could, instead, because does he come with a little dog? I can't. No, he doesn't. He doesn't. That's right. I was thinking of the priest guy. And say if you replace his dog with a little cat, it's pretty much me. Oh, I'd be a named steam tank commander. Oh yeah. Don't even have to walk to war. Are you kidding me? Hell yeah. He does come with a little dog. Oh, he does. Okay, I'm not crazy. Yeah, replace that with a cat somehow and we're all set. He's the spitting image. Named Rune Father. You know, honestly, I will agree with Spezia regarding the named Rune Father or Rune Lord. And the reason I agree is because, much like Daughters of Cain, I do not really like the idea of all the heroes in a given faction being from a multi-kit box. You know what I mean? We're like, all the Witch Elf leaders come from that one stupid Cauldron box. It's a great box, cool models, but it makes getting into the faction so much more difficult. And expensive, because now you got to buy multiples if you want a few. It's just... I don't know. I've never been a fan of that when they started doing that with some armies. And it's just some of them. Let's see. I think Nurgle could do with another named character. Rolls eyes. Yeah, if you guys don't know, Nurgle is like half that friggin' book is just named characters. It's so frustrating. I was really hoping when they made the jump from fantasy to AOS that they would have basically deleted one of the Maggotkin Lord profiles and made him just like a generic, Rotbringer captain on Maggot thing, because man, like they're everyone's named, and I want to use some of the cool monsters and stuff like that, but all of them are named, and you're like, whoa. And then you're paying like a named guy tax, which is exactly what it feels like. Flesh Eater Courts could use one. I guess the Duke from Underworld kind of counts. Yeah, I mean, he technically has a name. Will anyone remember it? Probably not, but that's okay. It's kind of like when I was playing Iron Jaws. You're just like, oh yeah, the Iron Jaws guy. You're like, nobody cares if he has a name. And then that one moment someone actually does use his name, you're just like, who is that? Oh, right. That guy that I've been proxying to use as a more interesting version of an Ardboy in Warcry. Seraphon Croxigar. I do like my own created name characters for Iron Jaws and Bone Splitters. Speaking of Underworlds, it makes little sense, but I want Bone Splitters in Beastgrave. No, I think it makes perfect sense. They're all over Gur. They like the monsters. Why does that make any less sense than, I don't know, Gloomspite Gits who wake up and don't know how they got there? Which is literally their lore. They just woke up and were like, well, we're here now. Which, I mean, is usually the signifier of a fantastic night before, but, you know. Want a named hero besides Grunson? I just want them to, like, talk more about Grunson. they talk about how cool he is, but they don't really, like, give you any examples of, like, he's a wealthy guy. And you're just like, okay. I mean, it's a faction based on wealth, so someone has to be wealthy, I guess, but you're not telling me why he's cool. It's kind of how I feel about Brock Grunson. A named KO boat. Ooh. That could be cool. Do Fireslayers even have a named character? Do they have one in White Dwarf? I don't remember hearing about that. My KO hunt Sylvaneth for alcohol barrels. Yes, I'm sure the Sylvaneth wood barrel aged coffee and liquor is pretty amazing. All right, I think I'm going to call it pretty much done on those specific pieces, mainly because I want them out of my way. Pick this up, just make sure there's no wash stuck to the bottom. I was really hoping the Ironclads would get a commander upgrade like the steam tanks. Yeah, that was kind of a... I don't know if well, yeah, I will call it a miss. That was a miss. That's a cool idea. Especially when there's so few unit choices. And Cities of Sigmar has all of them, all of the unit choices. There's a white dwarf named Roomfather on Magmadroth, but it's not been made official. Oh, interesting. Chris asks, are you gonna convert the new Nurgle Warband into your C theme? Yeah, I'm actually planning on grabbing probably 2 of copies of them, and the reason is because if you look in the back, one guy has a hook for a hand, which is like perfect for me, and I can use the wizards as various things, so that's kind of the idea I'm gonna go for. Yeah, so I am. I'm the only thing that might be not even really an issue, but just a pain, is I have to wait and see how they stand on their bases, because some of the earlier Warcry warbands, they're done so where, like, you know, it'll be like the model of the guy is perfect except it ends at his ankle because his foot is a part of the base, and they got better. The last few that I've built when I was really cranking out Warcry warbands weren't like that, like the more recent ones, but there were some at some point. So I'm kind of curious to see how they stand on those bases. I'm hoping they continue the trend of letting them stand on their feet so I can just plop them on a new base. But that's like my only concern, and honestly it's not that big a concern, all things considered. Okay. What I'd love to see is Cities of Sigmar warband for Underworlds, where they give you like a new general dude, that kind of stuff. I'd love it. Just cut the base off around the foot. It gets to be a real pain in the butt. I'm talking specifically like the foot is molded in, and so now you're clipping up the base, which gets very thick in some places, and then you have to go sideways and cut the foot from the base. I'm not saying it's impossible. I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying it's a pain. And I don't always want to deal with it. All right, so at this point, we got to throw down the metallics, and we got to do the highlight for the tan color to get it to be this nice, worn out kind of looking thing. So let's start with the Ushati bone part, just to get that color done. I think Bone Splitters is supposed to be getting one soon. Yep, there is art for them. So my assumption, and the assumption of many, is that Bone Splitters will in fact have a Underworld's Warband. I think Skaven who is compassionate, caring, and honest would be a really funny named character. Oh, he'd be so dead. He'd be the most dead rat ever. The deadest. I guess it's not true. So if he could be as like what am I trying to look for? If he could like not be gullible, you know what I mean? So like a lack of innocence, even though he chooses to be a good rat, he could survive. That's a good point. Because like he has to understand that everybody else is going to stab him in the back. Kevin, Seraphon, I bet we will see one right around the new battle tome. For Seraphon, you mean like an Underworld's Warband? I will not lie to you. I wouldn't hold my breath. I don't know anything, but I feel like they would have shown it. Isn't that just Splinter? But it's got to be like edgy Splinter, right? Splinter who doesn't take time to meditate. Splinter who's like doing his own schemes, but his schemes end in joy and compassion. Our shenanigans are good shenanigans. Their shenanigans are evil and mean. Evil shenanigans. That's the thing, is even if you are a nice Skaven, you still got to be able to keep up with all the bad guys who are trying to stab you in the back. You know, you got to run with the pack. Farva shenanigans, exactly. Exactly, yes, that everybody knows that super awesome Skaven Farva Cola Gnaw. Splinter raised children as assassins for his revenge plot. It's plenty edgy. Was it for a revenge plot? I mean, I don't actually know. I'm gonna level with you guys. I was not into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as a child. I know. Legasp sub count drops. Is there a super thick Skaven star player in Blood Bowl? I think yes, there is. There is a super. We'll call him Chungus the Rat in Blood Bowl, but I can't think of what he is specifically. Rat ogre. Okay, yeah, I couldn't tell if it was a rat ogre or if it was intended to be like one of their breeding things. If you guys want a super gross story that'll turn your stomach, go read End Times Thankful, when one of there's a dwarven slayer, not a fire slayer, a dwarven slayer stumbles into the breeding pits of a Skaven army, and it's just like an apocalyptic event. So crazy. The Blood Bowl player isn't a rat ogre. Just a... okay. But where do they put all the poop? Well, that is the most important question that you can ask your fantasy game. Where's the poop go? But, gotta say they didn't go into that one much. So speaking of questions that you'll never get answered, along with your poop one. When I talked about Bone Splitters for the first time in the channel, this was years ago, not the Bone Splitter series is up now, but like a really older video, I got a inordinate number of people asking like, how do they breed? Like, you know, all that kind of stuff. And you're just like asking questions about like, you know what I don't want to do? I don't want to be the guy who's in his 30s talking about orc sex. Just going to throw that out there. GW didn't mention it. I have no reason to comment. I have enough things in my life to feel insecure about. This will not be among them. Andrew, that is a 40k thing. It has not been confirmed in any way, shape, or form in AOS. Dread Nautilus, where was that confirmed at? War Tribes Tone confirmed it for AOS. In the Orc War Clans book, it explains how they grow from... Okay, maybe I'm wrong. That's fine, it happens. So yeah, there you go. But, so thank you, everybody, for correcting me. Page number... Kevin, you didn't put a page number, it just says page number. Oh, you mean like you have the book and you're ready to look for it. So anyway, this was asked back with the old Bone Splitters Battle Tome where it wasn't mentioned. This was honestly 2 years ago, minimum. So it wouldn't have mattered, but that's good to know. And as far as... Who is it? Blight's Creek, Doug, falling behind his orc sex knowledge. I always tell people, you know what I hate? I hate being called Loremaster. I really do. I don't like it. And the reason I say that, you know, when people call me that, they mean well. And I know they do. But the thing is that, like, I do not retain information. Like, for example, the last Ossiarch Bone Reapers book that lore video I wanted to do, right, before I finished the Battle Tome for the most part, was that one talking about the various sub-factions, the one that went up earlier this week. At this point right now, that book is dead to me. And my brain is already forgetting it. If earlier I mentioned like, oh yeah, they're from Ossia, I only know that because it's in their name. And so I don't retain information. So what I like to say to folks who call me out on that, because I remember I was chatting with Loremaster Sotek at some point, and he just knows everything. Like he has it all down in his memory. Is that you know, you get a lot of content creators who put a lot of their points into intelligence and they remember all these things, but I chose to put all my points in charisma, and I think that's why I've been doing so hot. That's how I explain it to myself anyway. That's how I make myself feel better about not knowing things. Sotek has a brain that just retains this stuff. Yeah, but there's several. I mean, there's also stuff for 40k, and you know, it's not like a. There's different skills, right? Memorization is a skill just as much as teaching is. I like to think in my own mind that my real talent is explaining things in a consumable way for people who have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. Like, you know what I mean? Like if somebody comes to the game and they're like, what is Age of Sigmar? They can find my channel and then, you know, over the course of many videos, you know, because it's a lot to take in, the whole setting and the timeline, that kind of stuff, they can figure it out. And so, as opposed to what I'm experiencing right now with getting into Infinity, which is just like, oh, you want to learn about this game? Here's a life raft, jive into the deep end. But yeah, retention for me is not a big deal. In fact, I have rewatched many of my own videos to be like, I don't remember. Oh, the Sylvaneth was a big one. Yeah, when that new Battle Tome came out, I definitely rewatched a lot of my older videos to be like, okay, who the hell is this person? You want to know Stormcast stuff? Call me. All right. I'm half-heartedly, because I cannot seem to find my Battle Tome, working on a lore video for Aventis Firestrike, who I think, when you hear the name Aventis, I think Italian, right? And I think the Firestrike Wood Girl Pizza Company, owned by a man named Aventis, would do quite well in any given city of Sigmar. Dread Nautilus, this talk about Hitler reminds me of Danger 5. I have no idea what to talk about. Aventis has the coolest backstory. He's pretty rad. He's a rad dude. Oh, here we go. Kevin bringing in the heat. Page 4. Scholars of Hysh believe if a dead orc is left in a dark place, it will become fungal jelly. Well, what do the Scholars of Hysh know? They're still guessing about Seraphon and Beasts of Chaos. I'm going to say they know a whole lot of nothing. Doug Griggs of Earth, he knows. And he cooks pizza using the Fire Slayer terrain. Oh my god, that'd be amazing. Someone please make a diorama of that. And if we could make it somehow as offensive to Italian people as possible, right? Just like across the top of the grill, just have a big sign that says like, a baby da boobly. But I feel like if you took the Lord Ordinator head, where he has like the mutton chops and the most glorious mustache to ever grace a Warhammer book, and you were to, I don't know, somehow green stuff like an apron over his armor, I think that'd be amazing. He talks with his hands as well. Oh yeah, he's got to do the. I don't know how you could really mold that outside of like actually green stuff, sculpting it, but that'd be amazing. Let's see, how did I do? This is why I have an example, because I don't know what I did before. Okay, here we go. Always have an example. I'm personally attacked. Let's see. Okay, I'm caught up. My chat jumped around all kinds of weird for a split second. Yeah. So that's what I would like. The Aventis Firestrike Spezia, I'm token Italian in Alabama. Oh gosh. There's a strong possibility that we might be moving back to Iowa this coming at the end of this year, so I can be my token Age of Sigmar guy there. I don't think Age of Sigmar is as big there. I know there's big events in the Midwest though, so that's exciting. Oh, we got lasagna talk. Okay. Time for lasagna to take over the stream. Lasagna is a fascinating food because it's one of the few foods, if you have two lasagnas and you put one lasagna on top of the other lasagna, you have one lasagna. And that's an incredible thing. That it just adds more layers, and I like that. Making it very versatile. It can be as many things as you want it to be. How many foods can do that? Anything that's layers, I suppose. This one next. Who's not making their own sauce? My wife makes some pretty incredible sauce. I never have. What you might call a grill guy, not so much I'm not a big sauce guy either, actually, now I think about it. America is funny, we absorb so much, but then use ketchup for pasta. I just imagine the little blurb from Fallout 4 when it says, nobody liked that. Olive Garden is trash? You said it? No. You know what the best part about Olive Garden is? When you're there, your family. If you don't know, that's their tagline. I just laugh at my own jokes sometimes. I apologize. Much embarrassment. Much shame. No, I don't mind Olive Garden. It's alright. It's alright. Spezia, do you have a hard, fast opinion about Maggianos? That family hates you. That's funny. Didn't realize, I mean, I'll be honest with you, like, as much as people complain about Olive Garden, I remember working at Applebee's and watching people pay $20 for a plate of pasta, and I'm like, seeing what Applebee's calls pasta and sauce, I'm just like, nope, that's bad. Say what you want about Olive Garden. Endless breadsticks makes up a multitude of sins, I'm just gonna say. Let's see. As far as what's going on in the hobby lately, let's chat about some other stuff. So I'm excited for the Lumineth guys. I was hoping for more confirmation of the... Like, I meant official, because they were mentioned, but I want to know more about the Sons of Behemoth, like the giant army. is honestly... So, okay, so backing up from this weekend, I'm going to just throw my cards on the table. People you can react however you want. I was really not super interested in the Lumineth stuff. Like, lore-wise I am, but as far as like the models, like, nothing happened this weekend that I was like, oh, that's awesome. I was just like, meh. And then compounded with some of the negativity that I saw online. It kind of just, to be perfectly frank, sucked the wind from my sails, if you will. And that was kind of a bummer. And that's why I made a post on Twitter about, like, sees everyone being negative, and then I just went to the Infinity forums where everybody's incredibly positive. And I'm sure they're not positive all the time, but it was a good break. And I needed to step away for the weekend kind of thing. So, yeah, I don't know. I had a weird number of people be like, dude, did you hear about Teclis? I was like, yes, I heard. Everyone and their mother heard about Teclis. You can't go on the internet and not hear about Teclis all of a sudden. His model didn't grip me. I don't know. I honestly, I think I just prefer the more super out there fantasy stuff. So going backwards to the more traditional elves, I understand that some people really love them. And I super validate that and affirm that, but they just don't do it for me. I'm just like, but why aren't they riding eels and crap like that? So I don't know. There's a very, it sounds harsh to say a very meh weekend, but between not getting really excited about anything and then having to see so much negativity, and then to the point where I just like, you know what, it's healthy for me just to walk away, and so I stepped away. It's like, it wasn't a great weekend. I think part of it is I need to do an online media purge. Armor Man. Yeah, I will say the Skitarii stuff all looked rad. That's actually, for an army that I'm never going to play in a game that I play rarely, the Skitarii were the winners of the weekend to me. Because I also love the fly guys, because they're kind of in that same pose as the Corvus Cabal bro from Warcry, where it's just like, he's just like swooping in like a madman. That's the kind of stuff I like. I'm like, oh yeah, that's super out there. You know, like Bird Person from Rick and Morty. Doing his thing, being his best self. New Skitarii flyers are my least favorite AdMech models ever. Oh, you don't like... So just to clarify, Sam Cook, I'm not talking about the actual flyer, like the ship they unveiled. I actually really like that. I'm talking about the guys who look like they're pouncing with wings. So I just want to make sure you and I are saying the same thing, talking about the same models. But I like them. They're cool. You know, it's just... anymore, I just want to see interesting stuff, right? I don't know what it is. I get kind of tired of, was like, oh, here's this other Space Marine thing that looks like every other Space Marine thing. And the same thing with Stormcast and all that jazz. But then they just drop something where you're like, here's a bird person with a plant for a head and 9 arms and 13 eyes, and he doesn't have any gods, and he, you know, is a master architect. And you're like, what the hell is going on? Who's smoking what over there? And I'm just like, that's where I want to be. That's the model I want to play with. The most out there, wild, ridiculous thing. Sign me up. As long as it doesn't have profanity in its name and it's not sexual in nature, sign me up. Is Teclis supposed to be floating? So his not Egyptian Sphinx bird thing has his wings out like this. So Teclis is flying here. His cape latches onto that wing. So I don't know. It kind of... To be honest, it kind of looks like, this is going to date me. For those of us who played Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, when you would jump off a ramp and your skateboard would go flying away, but you still managed to land like the Jesus T-pose kind of thing, that's what it looks like he's doing. It looks like he got bucked the heck off of that mount, and he's just like, oh, doing the Jesus T-pose in Rio de Janeiro. So that is my my thought. Question, Doug, have you seen the Rippa's Snarl Fang from Underworlds? Would you support that being turned into a full unit in Gloomspite? Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I mean, I wouldn't mind it at all. Either Gloomspite or Ogre Maw Tribes, if they wanted to kind of think of them more as oh my gosh, what are the... See? I'm demonstrating my lack of memory right now. What are the names of the little grots that are in Maw Tribes? Those guys. Chat, you figure it out. Noblars, thank you. See, this is how I know I've made it as a YouTube personality, where I can delegate brain power to other people, and no one's like, Doug, you really need to stop recording things. You're really bad at this. Tony Hawk Pro Skater, yeah. Andrew, I love it. I can't tell you how many hours I spent on that game. It was probably unreasonable. Between Tony Hawk Pro Skater, Resident Evil, and Morrowind, those were my 3 games that I remember where it's like my sad little world stopped and it consumed me. Which is funny because they're 3 very different games. Let's see here. Where can I buy bases found on a cheap ground of unpainted longbeards, but they're on squares? Wait, what? So you want to buy dwarves? I don't think I understand. Oh, you're just asking where you can get bases? There's quite a few places. What is it? Secret Weapon Miniatures has some really cool looking ones. But there's a whole bunch I'll let everyone else suggest. I don't normally do fancy bases. The only time I've done fancy bases is when I'm doing with my Nurgle, which is custom rolling every single one of them from a roller I got a green stuff for, which I do not necessarily recommend. It's kind of soul crushing. It was part of the reason why I put that army away for a couple months. It's just like, okay, I gotta build, this many plague bearers. Okay, well, to even start with the plague bearers, I should probably get their bases ready. Okay, 60 bases. I hate everything about this. And so I just had to put them up for a little bit. I'm glad I did. I didn't get myself burned out. I don't hate it, so I didn't want to sell it. And now I have... This might actually be... No, it's not the first time, but it's one of the few times that I have an army. I'm actively excited about playing them. And they have support, like a new book coming out. I had the Iron Jaws when their book... Their current book came out, but I was on the cusp of selling them before, and ultimately ended up doing it anyway, so. But but I want to be a Maggotkin player. My hashtag for 2019 is going to be Maggotkin for the Maggot win. And you're going to see that whenever I go to an event. Which, there should be more. More of me going to events. That's the plan anyway. Did you check out the preview of Drowned Men? I did. It doesn't strike me as incredibly groundbreaking. It's probably aesthetically one of the closest things to my paint scheme, but I very purposefully did my own. Like the Drowned Men is a scheme inside the book because it's wait, I know his name. Gutrot's Boom. It's his thing, or at least he rides alongside them frequently. And so I wanted something that was it was near it, but just a hair off, and so that's why mine have the navy blue rather than kind of the, I don't even know what color that would be, like the dark green kind of stuff, almost dark Eldari actually, color that they use for them. So I might use the rules for them, we'll see, but I like that I kept my color neutral enough to where I can pretty much do whatever I want and come up with a narrative reason as to why they're fighting with, you know, the Municipant Wanderers or that kind of thing. You know, just pick a random army. So, yeah. I'm just excited, you know? It's one of those things. I can't remember the last time. Let me think about that. What I was going to say is I can't remember the last time I was disappointed by a book because I generally don't have any expectations. I just kind of like sit back and am along for the ride. I think the last time that I was disappointed, like actively disappointed by something. Forbidden Power? No, but even then, I did actively enjoy the narrative in there. I just felt the campaign was weak. I don't know. Certainly the skirmish, that was a definite. I was like, meh. But yeah, it's been a long time, which is a good thing. You know, it's great. I love this hobby. That exact reason. But yeah, the story, like the story of the siege on the Midnight Tomb and all that stuff. Oh man, I was all about that. But yeah, where it ultimately landed with campaign and playability and that kind of stuff, I didn't care much for. Here we go, Dryad Bark. Doug, with your Nurgle army, you could justify them showing up anywhere because the vectors of plague are so numerous they could flow anywhere. Oh yeah, I mean, I have a few things about that I want to touch on. One is I do not bemoan anyone. If you show up with a Golden Boy army for Stormcast, you're like, these are anvils of the Heldenhammer. You know what? I don't really care. So I'm not super stringent on that whole thing. Especially because, like I said, I intentionally painted them in their own scheme for that exact reason. So, like, lore-wise, they are whoever I want them to be at that particular moment. And the kind of lore that I'm still slowly cultivating for them is their sailors, their harbormen for Nurgle, transporting his army. The leader's he's just known as the ferryman. That kind of stuff. And so, you know, the idea of like they can pick up skills and abilities from those that they transport, so why can't he learn some stuff from the Drowned Men and then learn some stuff from some other dude man bro that I can't think of the name of right now, that kind of thing. A gentleman reached out to me and was like, you know, actually, I live in your area, and I wanted to ask you if you wanted to play a game, but I don't have a painted army. I'm like, I don't care if you have a painted army. I don't know where you think I'm getting this elitism from. Like, let's just hang out and get some soda, we'll chill. We'll have a fun time. You can kick my tail, because that's generally what happens when I play Age of Sigmar. Do you think they'll make Tyrion as big as Teclis on the topic of model and scale? Also, do you think he'll still have something I can't pronounce? I don't know what that is. Sorry, I'm not an old world guy. I'm assuming that's something from the old world and I don't know. Yeah, no, honestly, I have no idea what to expect. Guys, I was desperately hoping that they were going to troll us just for a brief moment and say that the mount that he was with was named Tyrion. Can you imagine the amount of nerd rage if they had done that? Of people be like, what? Oh my god, it would have made my life. If they had called that weird Sphinx Griffin thing Tyrion, oh man. Hope Tyrion doesn't look as dumb. Oh, shots fired. It's not for everybody, but for the people, honestly, I look at that model and I'm like, it strikes me the same way as Ossiarch Bone Reapers. Not for everybody. People who like it, love it. And if they were trying to capture the image of a haughty, privileged dick, that's exactly what they got. Because that's what he is. I mean, like, that's not an insult on him, but it's just, he's supposed to be the person who thinks he has the best plan. So much so that he pretty much demoed the old world. Honestly, I had a fun time last weekend, just painting and talking shop. Isn't that fun? I find it generally hard to move all of my paints and supplies to the store, but the times I do, usually it's when I'm building stuff. Honestly, I don't really paint anywhere else. But if I'm building stuff, I'll head over to the G-Dubs, and when I can, and that's always fun. I had a moment, it was last week, yeah, it was last Thursday. Or I don't know, it occurred to me, like, I just haven't hung out with my friends enough lately, and I was feeling a little lonely, and so then I went and hung out with Ben, who built all this terrain, and we just sat there, and we just built stuff. He was building terrain, I was building some Chaos Space Marines, before they became emotionally crushing to continue, and we just hung out. It was nice. So every once in a while I gotta step back and just be like, it's not about content creation, just about hanging out with people, doing stuff we like. It's easy to lose focus on that though. So Fantasy Teclis was sickly and needed his brother and potions, but Tyrion was blind and relies on his brother. Yeah, I don't know. I'm really interested in the book because the way that they didn't really describe him as being sickly in Age of Sigmar, right? He's now deity-rific. But they did describe Tyrion as blind, and so I'm curious about their relationship. I'm assuming there's going to be something about Tyrion in the book. What their relationship's like. We know, dumb stuff that's really simple that should be a no-brainer, but we can't take for granted because of how much stuff changes. We know Tyrion is active, intelligent, and talks quite a bit because he was in Forbidden Power chatting with Teclis. They just gave us like a snippet of their conversation. Not big on elves in any setting, to be fair, but Malarian shadow elves could pull me in. Yeah, I don't know. It depends on kind of what they go for. That's the thing. I'm more interested, in understanding if you're an artist, okay? Let's say you're one of the GW sculpting artists, and they walk in and they say, I want you to make an army based on shadow. Like that, I feel like that sounds like a very tall order because it's such an abstract and vapid thing. You're just like, so I don't know. I'm interested to see kind of where their design space is. I have absolutely zero doubt that it's going to be exactly like most of the stuff here where people either love it or hate it with Teclis. And there's going to be a whole bunch of people, this whole subgroup of people who are like, I waited 6 years for Malekith was like my favorite character in the old world and they just ruined him, you know. And you'll have that. Whiner's going to whine. But I do think it'll be one of those things because the concept of magic that it's based upon is like just so abstract. I don't know. I feel like it's going to be one of those, not divisive as in like, you know, break up friendships kind of thing, but just either love it or you hate it. And once I finish this piece, I'm going to have to hop off and cook dinner for my lovely wife. We got a little bit of time left. We got a couple minutes. This is the big one. So yeah, I don't know how they're going to handle that, but always interested to know more. The Starscream of AOS, that's awesome. As long as they don't make Malarians sound like Starscream, there's that raspy, annoying, whiny voice. Oh my god, I hated that voice. It suited his character perfectly. It just also happened to be super annoying. Let's see. Do Malari and Marathi actually get along? They function together. Like, they can get along. There was a point in time when Marathi first came basically to her senses in the realm, and the only other person she found was Malarian. So they can work together. They just don't really like each other or trust each other is the kind of the bigger thing. But yeah, I mean, as far as like, I think they have a greater understanding of each other and their motives than say like Sigmar and so. And all those guys, certainly. I don't know if I would say that Marathi and Malarian are necessarily closer than any elven god, just because at this point Malarian has become a god and is now his own jam, so maybe he relates more to the Teclis and Tyrion. But we don't know. We don't know enough about him. We don't have enough elf god drama content to be able to really comment. I want destruction humans. Me too. I want humans for every Grand Alliance, like living people. Like I want them like they were described in Nagash Undying King. Still my favorite Age of Sigmar book. No contest. Have you talked about your thoughts on the new models? What do you think of Teclis in particular? Yeah, I did a brief thing the day after everything was revealed. I wasn't super blown away by anything. Some people fell in love, and I am absolutely happy for them. It just didn't speak to me. I mean, I didn't have any real ties to the old world aesthetic, which is kind of, I feel like it really leans heavily on that, which is cool, and then many people love it. It just wasn't for me. Yeah, I mean, as far as Teclis goes, there's a lot of design choices I just don't get. So, like, I love actually his mount. Super cool looking. Are you kidding me? That thing's awesome. What I don't like is how he's positioned in relation to it. I don't quite understand that. It seems like it's going to be when I say impractical, it doesn't do it justice. But an incredibly impractical model to transport. And that's an issue, you know? People love to go take their hobby to go see their friends, and making models safe to take from one place to another, man, it's important. And so I just don't see how that is going to work. But you know, people are all like picking on his face and that kind of stuff. I don't mind it. I think it looks cool. I like the Rio de Janeiro Jesus T-pose thing. I think he's up there living his best life, being a jerk. But you know, not everyone likes it. That's fine. So what I'm going to do is hop off and go take care of my lovely wife, who puts up with me and all of this stuff. Let me turn this light off here. So anyway, thank you all so much for joining me. I will see you all very, very soon. Got a new video going out tomorrow regarding, it's tomorrow, the Iron Suns. There we go. Iron Suns for Iron Jaws. There's your sneak peek for joining me. Anyway, I will catch you all later. I'm going to go build some Infinity models after I'm done with dinner and hang out. You all have yourselves a wonderful night, and I will see you later. Happy work.